Greg Miller from Up at Noon. Like these extended interviews with the developers? Then click here to subscribe to start. Then open your heart for some love from a man who's learned his lesson. You hear me, Deborah? I've learned my lesson. I know I was harsh. I know I was cruel. But it was because I was afraid of who I was, not of who you are. Please subscribe to start, Deborah! If you're not Deborah, here's my extended interview with DayZ's Dean Hall. As I live and breathe, Dean Hall.
G'day.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Oh, you have a funny accent.
I do.
I like it. This DayZ. I keep hearing people talk about this DayZ. Call of Duty mode? What am I talking about here?
It's a mod for a military simulator, hardcore military simulator called Arma 2.
Yes. It's taken the world by storm. You launch it in April. Did you expect it to do this where everyone is playing and talking about it?
No. Yeah.
Did you hope? Was it even a hope?
Surprise.
I mean, like...
No, not really. I mean, I hoped it was designed kind of as a technology demo. So I hoped that it would demonstrate, particularly maybe within Bohemia and that, and to some other people, the power of like persistent worlds and giving people the opportunity to, create their own stories in a game.
So for someone who's just tuning into Up at Noon right now, getting their news here, which is a terrible idea, DayZ in a nutshell, what is it? How do you describe it to people when they ask you? You're like, I work on this thing called DayZ, and they're like, oh, cool, what's that?
It's a hardcore, I guess, zombie apocalypse simulator. So it attempts to put a player inside an open world where they have to go around, scavenge for food, supplies, that kind of stuff. And they're inhabiting that world with other players, between 50 and 100 other players per that server. Because it's persistent, when you log into another server, you start off where you were before and things like that.
Gotcha. So then, now let's go backwards. We have the idea, we have the nut, where the great tree comes from. But why did you want to get involved in it? Why did you want to make this mod? Like, why was this something that spoke to you?
Well, modding's always been something I'm really interested in because it brings real like creativity. You can do a lot more creative stuff when you don't have a boss, and even to an extent you don't have an audience. So
yeah, trust me, I know all about that.
Yeah. So. I was also really interested in survival type elements from when I was in the military. So I guess they kind of came together and as well I liked the horror genre, so I wanted to explore that.
How old are you?
31.
How have you lived this life? I have nothing. I write about video games. You have been in the army. You're making games. You're a celebrity now. What the hell?
I was in the Air Force too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jesus. So much, and you're,
I guess it's
you're in pretty good shape too.
Yeah. I guess I probably changed my mind a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, you changed your mind a lot. So I read a little bit on this website called Wikipedia about you, and they were saying that the DayZ idea was somehow tied into your military service. Like you were.
Yeah. Actually, my mum told me that I had a Wikipedia article.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did she
she's
make
like
it?
my biggest fan. I don't know. I hope not. No, it'd probably have all these crazy childhood stories if she did. So, yeah. So like the military service, when I was doing survival training was, I guess, where a core part of it came from. I was on exchange with the Singaporean Armed Forces, and we went to Brunei to do a survival course, and it was really hard. I ended up getting badly injured. I had to have like surgery and stuff.
What happened?
I got really malnutritioned because I run out of food. You have to do this survival assessment, and I basically didn't eat for about 7 days.
Trouble.
And yeah, so that didn't sort of end too well.
Yeah. So that all kind of inspired you to make this game then about survival?
Yeah, well, it was a real, I guess, watershed moment. That was when I was like, okay, these are the things I'm really interested in. So I'd re-enlisted in the army because when I was working in the video game industry, I hated what I was doing. So I quit and then just suddenly re-enlisted in the military. And so after 2 years and after the time overseas, I decided, after that I kind of said, okay, these are the things I want to do. I don't really care if I make a lot of money. I just want to make the kind of games that I like, even if, that's going to screw up my career. So I ended up, going to the Czech Republic. I hadn't even talked to Bohemia Interactive, like through the phone. They just said over Skype, hey, turn up and you can work on Arma 3. So,
nice.
Yeah.
And so you went there and they put you up in this job to work on Arma 3, but you just started doing your own thing?
Yeah, well, that was one of the things that I'd sort of stipulated, is that I wanted to be able to work on mods in my own time. I was also working on some prototypes of other game ideas I had in like Unity and that. So that was kind of the stuff I was doing in my spare time.
Okay. So then why put zombies into it? I mean, you got hurt, you were doing this survival exercise all by yourself. Arma, a hardcore, like you said, military idea. Like you didn't need to go to the fantastical to put these guys in it. Why did you want to do it? Especially when so many people go, oh, zombies, it's so overplayed, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I guess because zombies. Yeah. But no, yeah, like I guess the real key thing was, I've kind of joked around before that, you could do this, you could do DayZ without the zombies. You could do it with peak oil. So you could say, wow, the world's ended because of peak oil, but it's not nearly as sexy as using zombies.
No.
So, sexy zombies, wait, that doesn't really work, does it?
It works.
It works? Okay. Okay, yeah. But I think people understand them. So they're a fear for people because they've got body horror, people's fears about viruses and stuff like that are all tied in with it. So it's something people can understand. It's also something you can do really effectively on a computer, because if you want to model, say, what Arma 2 normally does, which is a soldier running around doing smart things, is a lot harder than modeling a brain-dead zombie that if it falls off a building, you're just like, zombie.
That's what a zombie would really do. Yeah. Okay. So then, you've talked a lot about tech and where the video game industry is going and stuff. Why did you put this on a PC? PC gaming sucks, bro. It's terrible. I'm a huge zombie fan. I love zombie games. I play them all the time. I heard about DayZ. Anthony Gaius wouldn't shut up about it. I go home. I buy Arma. First off, I update some goddamn driver on my PC that I bought for $400 just because I want to play. All I want is SimCity. But I get cool games like you two, all right, whatever. And so I go to Steam. Well, first off, I go to your site to buy it, and I'm like, oh, I got to download it here, but then no, got to buy the games. Like, okay, that's cool. I go to Steam, put in Arma. It doesn't find the games, number one. I got to go back to Google where to find Arma. It says find it on Steam. I'm like, you motherfucker, I was just on Steam.
Yeah.
I click through the Google link to go to Steam. It opens up. I buy the games. They download for like a day and a half. I go read your thing, and it's like, well, now you got to, click through the main menu, get to the thing. I'm like, all right, cool. I do it with Arma 1. Arma 2's like, all right, no problem, I'm up and running. I'm like, great. I go to Arma Combat Ops, little Steam window pops up, and there's all these green checkboxes start filling in, and then like 3 or 4 in, it just fails. It's like, no, and some weird code came up, and I'm like, wait, and I restart it, and I go back into Steam, and I open it again, and it does the code thing again, and I'm like, well, I'm going to go get some trophies.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny because it's true. Yeah, in fact, the scariest thing is, so the BBC did an article on DayZ when it was really exploding, and one of the reporters had emailed me, and I was telling him how to, because he wanted to play it, how to set it all up. And in the end, he asked for a list of instructions. And I realized how ridiculous it was when I was linking him to a 4chan post that had a JPEG of how to install it. I was like, okay, I'm linking the BBC 4chan. No good can come from
this is bad.
He's like, what is this site? Yeah.
Taking him to the darkest corners of gaming.
Yeah, I think the key thing is the console industry is quite fickle, particularly at the moment. Like you need a really polished design before you put something out there. There's a lot of money involved. And getting your product working on the platform, getting it through, Sony or Microsoft, because they have pretty stringent requirements. So it doesn't really lend itself well to like updates and all that kind of stuff. Anyone who's played DayZ significantly knows that it's fundamentally broken where it's at. But PC gamers, they understand.
A ringing endorsement. There's your box quote.
Yeah.
Fundamentally broken creator.
Yeah. Well, it is, and it was almost kind of traumatic when people started playing it to the extent it did, because it was only really designed as a tech demo. But people really, I guess, identified with the approach and the direction being taken with it. So that's why, with console versions like the 360 and the PS3, they're definitely something that we could look at doing. But we would need to have the design solidified first. And I think that's what the PC really offers. You've just got to have the audience. Luckily, there's enough people out there prepared to completely suffer through endless gauntlet of installing it to figure out how it works.
So where do you see then the next generation of consoles going? Because it's one of those things, PC has been at the forefront, bleeding edge as far as like mods, downloads, being able to do all this stuff. And you see now with PSN, Xbox Live, full games being able to be downloaded. There are, the updates to stuff like that. Is the playing field going to be more level, you think, next generation?
I think so. I think all indicators are kind of pointing that there's going to be some serious innovation. I'm really excited to hear about the PS4. That's probably what's got me really excited. I think there's huge potential there, and maybe they will really kind of get it. And I guess from a business standpoint, they really want to cash in. The PC gaming, which even I started to think was maybe starting to see its heyday, a few years ago. And it's kind of had this massive recovery, with Minecraft and stuff like that. So it's really found its place with the current generation of consoles reaching the ends of their life. So obviously the consoles, they'll want to get in that area, and they'd be mad not to.
Is it one of those things, do you think that for the next generation you'll have to see kind of the walls come down? You've talked before, you've been outspoken about, what a publisher brings to the table anymore. Because, for you guys, you don't really need it, right? Like, you're able to make the game, put it out, and there you go, everybody. And obviously you find an audience for it. Do you see, is that something consoles have to do? Does Sony have to adopt like an App Store-like approach where here's our tools, make whatever and put it up?
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest stumbling block. And I've had some pretty awkward conversations with people at like Gamescom and that publishers, say, hey, we really want to get involved and stuff like that. And you're kind of like, yeah, well, what do you do? And if you want to get on, like Xbox, Xbox Live Arcade, you need to go through a publisher, or you need to be a publisher, and it's really difficult to become a publisher. So there's a lot of stumbling blocks because I guess the console market is really deeply tied in with this concept of the console manufacturer, the publisher, and the developer. Whereas now we're seeing a lot of things like, in Minecraft, I keep using it because it's a good example, but there's other examples.
It's a big deal if you haven't heard about it.
But like, even like Kerbal Space Program, which I really like as well, like the developers are directly in touch with their communities. So they're playing like, publisher and developer all in one. And yeah, so I think that whole focus needs to change for the consoles if they really want to edge in.
All right, so now doubling back to your baby here, DayZ. A lot of talk lately about it's going to become its own standalone product now, right? What's happening with that?
Yeah, it's the mod's on borrowed time, and I think a lot of people don't quite realize that. Just even before I was talking with the guys, we were having problems with the central server. So it's something we have to do. A lot of the bugs and those fundamental flaws I was talking about, we've identified what they are, but we can only fix them in source.
Gotcha.
So this needs to happen, and it needs to happen soon. It's kind of crazy because people are still buying Arma 2. Like, we thought that when we announced standalone that the sales would really die off. There's still about 5,000 to 7,000 sales a day going on, which is insane.
Think it's one of those things with the video game industry, right? People announce games all the time, and then 3 years later, I get to play them. That's not the kind of turnaround you're looking for?
No, well, and we've been quite outspoken about like we're going to have it out in December, so it just seems like people are still buying.
We've all been tricked, though. We've all been tricked.
True.
Things get delayed a lot. Sly Cooper lied to our face.
Yeah,
Said he'd be out this year. He's not, though, is he, Zanzaro? So now, is it going to be fundamentally broken when it comes out still, or what?
No, and I guess that's the most important thing. So we haven't really talked a lot about a lot of the new features and stuff that's going to be in it, because our prime focus is fixing the bugs and the flaws with the mod. Once we've done that, we will also tie in some other content. So we want to have enough in the standalone so that people don't feel ripped off when they're going out and paying another few dollars for a standalone.
Okay, cool. Now talk about the features. What are you going to do? What new features are you going to have in there?
Yeah, well, like the big thing that I can definitely promise is, so we've looked at the map Chernarus, which is the map that DayZ's based on. The original team who put that together, led by this guy Ivan Buchka at BIS. So he has gone back through and redeveloped the map to be more attuned for DayZ. Things like way more enterable buildings, because at the moment a lot of the buildings aren't enterable. So you run up to this building, you run into the door, and you're like, why can't I go in this building? And then you get mobbed by zombies or shot by a sniper or killed by hackers. So,
fun.
Yeah,
PC
fun.
gaming.
That's it. Yeah, emergent gameplay at its best. So that's something that we're redefining there. The other issue is dealing with hackers as well.
Yeah. Well, now you're talking about snipers and everything else, and hackers to an extent. When you made it, was there ever a thought of like maybe we shouldn't have humans fight each other? Like you kind of, because it can be frustrating, right? I hear about it all the time from people who are playing DayZ, where they have all the stuff and they're totally ready to go out and they do it, and then they get stabbed. They didn't see this guy sneak up behind them. Did you ever think not to do that, or is that just something?
No, I really wanted that concept of free will in there because, like, I'm a total Care Bear player. So when I run around, I'm like helping people and I try and form little groups and stuff like that, and then get slaughtered. But I realized that that's the gameplay that I want to do, but it's only fun if there's the threat of me getting slaughtered or made to do terrible things by someone at gunpoint. So that's the only time it's really fun. Yeah, that sounds totally wrong, but yeah, I think that a lot of people will say, oh, I really want to play this cooperative game, but the cooperative game becomes a lot more fun if there's a threat of death, and that's why that player interaction is so important.
Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you want to follow me on the Twitters here, at GameOverGreggy. I'll tweet who's on the show. You tweet me your questions. You get on up at noon. You get to show your ma. Hey, ma, look at this. I'm on the internet. Oh, let's see what we got here. David Cato writes and he says, did you guys hear about the Hunger Games DayZ tournament that went on last week?
Yes, yeah.
What exactly was that all about? I heard about it. Anthony again yammering about it. I know you've met Anthony Gallegos.
Yeah.
I want you to know all he does is talk about your game.
Cool.
It's very annoying.
Excellent.
Okay, well anyway, tell the world about the Hunger Games tournament here.
Yeah, I don't know a super lot about it. Like, I did briefly find out about it, but I was so busy preparing for like Gamescom and PAX and stuff like that. So I kind of lost touch with it. But yeah, basically these guys were running a server where they dump people in the world and they do the whole Hunger Games thing. And I'm really excited about it. So I think I tweeted the guys that are running it and said that we're going to see if we can run up a special build for them of the mod that's a lot more conducive to them running it. Maybe even use a special map that's a bit smaller. There's a map called Utes, which ships with armor too. So, or we could even talk to the Langer guys and see if we could use that. So I think, yeah, we'd love to support it. I think it's a really awesome thing that's come out of it.
Nice. Here's our last Twitter question, or here's our Twitter question. Craig yells at me. I have this editor who says don't number them, because then if I cut him.
Right.
So here, we'll do it again. Here's another Twitter question. Oh, no, I screwed it up already. Here's a question from Twitter. Where'd it go? All right, here you go. PD tweets, he says, what do you guys plan to do after DayZ is launched as a standalone? Is it going to be DLC, branching to other systems, another project? It sounds like you're going to be pretty committed to staying on with it. That's kind of your shtick here, your thing. You want to keep supporting the community, doing stuff with them?
Yeah, probably a huge party. No, like I think, and yeah, sail off into the sunset on some really expensive yacht. No, I think the key thing is when we release initially, it's going to be really non-ambitious. Mm-hmm. Is there another word for that? I don't know, but yeah, so
mundane.
Mundane, yeah.
Again, another great one. DayZ standalone. Mundane. Creator.
I said some really hilarious things at Gamescom that ended up like, I think I said like, gamers are buying crap or something. It's like, yay. Marketing comes to me and they're like, oh no, what have you said? But we want to fix the bugs and the hacking. That's priority number one. Then beyond that, the features we put in, we don't want game-breaking features. So the idea is once we release the standalone, that's when we get really ambitious. And how ambitious we are really depends on how successful we are at translating DayZ from mod to standalone. If we're really successful, and let's say we do like 1 or 2 million sales, then we can get super ambitious. And that's when, we've talked about doing things even like procedural terrain, procedural trees, all this kinds of really exciting stuff that people haven't really done before and end up with something more looking like, awesome stuff like EVE Online and that. So if we're able to succeed at what we're attempting, then I think that's the direction we'll head. And that will be the 6 months beyond our release at the end of the year.
All right, final question, team. If somebody's at home right now watching, how do they take a passion like modding and turn it into a career?
I think that the key there is passion. So you have to be really interested in what you want to do. So you have to really like doing what you're doing. I think the best designers, and I've talked to Marek, our CEO, and he agrees, are the ones that are all-rounders. Mm-hmm. So when I was working as a producer, I would sometimes end up with quite a bit of downtime. So instead of using that downtime to bug my leads and that, I would actually use it to learn about what they were doing. So I learned how to use 3D Max, and I think I'm even at the point of being a passable artist now, and learning programming and things like that. So I think, particularly if you want to get into design, I think you need to have a really good understanding of all the game disciplines.
Great. Well, Dean, thank you so much for your time.
Cool. Cheers.
Go get DayZ now. Hopefully you have more success with it than I did. Thank you for watching that extended interview with DayZ's Dean Hall. Did you like what you saw? Then subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment below. I'll never be as cool as a dog wearing sunglasses on a skateboard, and Deborah's a bitch.